House Democrats launching sweeping investigations into nearly every facet of President Trump's life, both before and after the inauguration. House Judiciary Chair Jerry Nadler spearheading much of that effort. His counterpart of the panel is the ranking member, our headliner today, Georgia Republican Doug Collins. Sir, how you doing? And good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Some are encouraging caution on this. Others are saying, let's go for it. What do you think they do?
They're going to choose the path of going forward with no idea where they're going. They remind me of a teenager who just got in front and behind the wheel of a car, not really sure, but they know the gas pedal works, and that's what they're doing. Eventually, they're going to have to figure out that the brake actually works too. It's not helpful to anything we're going through right now. And what they're saying is they have a conclusions of what they want, and now they're having to go find their facts to get there.
And as far as introducing articles of impeachment and the move that we are seeing in that direction on the left, here's Congresswoman Tlaib on that yesterday. Number 4.
Remember, this is setting a precedent. If we don't hold impeachment proceedings today, start them today and hold him accountable to following the United States Constitution, think about that. This is not going to be the last CEO that runs for President of the United States. This is not going to be the last person that tries to get away with this. And what does that say about the most powerful, most important most important position in the world?
How will this work out for them, Congressman?
I think it's going to work out badly because the American people are seeing that they're just going to the extremes. So what's really interesting, 2 points of what she just said is number one, we have to start impeachment now. I'm glad to see she has Mr. Steyer's talking points because that's exactly what he's been saying since November of 2016. But then she also, if you notice what there was also an attack on anybody who's been a successful business person because she said somebody else may get there. And that's just a subtle attack, on anyone that doesn't fit their mold of what public service ought to look like. And when we understand what's going on here, we understand the vast political pressure. Look, all of their leadership, including Chairman Nadler, even Ms. Pelosi and others, have said, we don't have information enough for the impeachment process. We don't know of anything, but yet you have members undoubtedly who have this vast amount of knowledge on things that even their leadership don't have. It's not going to play well. The American people see what's going on. They're just overplaying their hand as usual, and it's going to play in badly. We're just going to keep focusing on the truth.
Her exact words, this is not going to be the last CEO that runs for President of the United States, as you point out there. On Michael Cohen, there was news on him today. It broke overnight. Did he lie before that committee 8 days ago?
It sure seems that way, and that's why my colleagues Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows referred that for perjury. This is a man who is just probably from an old background of mine from being an attorney, is sometimes their best bet is just to be quiet. Sometimes your best bet to not continually bring up things that in the end are contradiction your own statements. Your best bet is instead of to try and either make a name for yourself, do something before you go to jail, is sometimes you just need to be quiet. What Michael Cohen is doing is just trying to spread as much pain as he possibly can because he obviously doesn't understand his own situation, and he's just flashing out at the world. And this is unfortunate to see this actually play out the way it is.
So Lanny Davis, his attorney, he was sitting behind Michael Cohen last week. He ushered him through Congress, right, before that hearing. He put out a long statement. This is just part of it now, okay? Prior to Michael Cohen's decision to leave the Joint Defense Group, he writes, and tell the truth, on July 2, 2018, Michael was open to the ongoing dangling of a possible pardon by Trump representatives privately and in the media. During that time period, he directed his attorney to explore possibilities of a pardon. I've gone through that statement. I don't hear Lanny Davis say this is not true. Do you?
No, I do not. This is the problem that Michael Cohen needed. Michael Cohen needed an attorney, not a publicity agent. He had a publicity agent in Lanny Davis who was trying to recreate his own fame and career by marching this through and working with the Democrats to bring him forward. Mr. Cohen needed an actual attorney. Obviously, he was let down by this. Maybe he needs to check into that.
That's his call.
Yeah, I mean, it is amazing here. Think about it. This is an attorney who should be there helping you, but yet at the same very point in time, he doesn't deny what's happening. He doesn't step forward and say, think about what you're saying. And it just seems like, again, Lanny Davis orchestrated a media event instead of actually being the attorney that he claimed to be. This is how far out of field this has gotten when you understand that they've lost track of what they're trying to do because they're so desperate to find something to stick on this president that they're willing to try anything possible. American people see through that, and frankly, the Democrats that I privately talk to are becoming more and more concerned that they've lost complete messaging. I was just listening to an interview being done up here on the Hill, and there were Democrat complaining about the fact that nobody's talking about the fact that they passed a very bad gun bill or that they're working on destroying our election system. They're upset because they're having to deal with all this other stuff. So this is a bad pause for them.
Meanwhile, a fiery hearing on Capitol Hill yesterday where we saw the Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen testifying before Congress, really describing a situation that she says is only getting worse, on pace for 1 million illegal border crossings this year. She laid that out. SOT number 6, here she is describing just how bad it's gotten at our southern border.
Today's migrant flows have created a humanitarian catastrophe. In one study, more than 30% of women reported sexual assault along the way, and 70% of all migrants reported experiencing violence.
Did she make any ground making the administration's case in that hearing room yesterday, Congressman?
I believe she did. When you start seeing headlines on the Washington Post, the New York Times, not conservative groups that are saying the exact same thing, that this border crisis is escalating, I find it hard to believe that there's any United States senator who would vote to approve this resolution of disapproval for building our border wall when the case is being made that there is an emergency at the border. The president is making that case. Secretary Nielsen made that case yesterday. And for them to actually say there's not a crisis, or they try to focus the attention on it might be not constitutional, which is not true. It is by statute he can do this. They're doing the American people a disservice. She's making the case. People are understanding. People back home in my district and people I talk to understand that you can't have an open border and not experience the consequences of that open border.
Sir, we really appreciate your time today. Thanks for coming on, and we'll speak again, okay?
I look forward to that. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks for being our headliner. You bet. You too.
Thanks.
All right, joining me now with reaction, Congressman Jim Jordan, ranking member of the House Oversight Committee. Congressman, let's start on the border issue, then we're going to get back to what else is cooking. But, I mean, we're going to talk about this later, but this is a national travesty. And the Democrats will say, oh, it's not bad at all on the border. Interceptions of people are down. There are fewer people crossing. What's the real truth?
You just heard from the agents on the border talking about how bad it is. Even the New York Times talk about the 70-some thousand just this month alone crossing the border. So I always say, if what are we on, the 5th caravan? What do we need, a 6th caravan, 7th caravan, an endless caravan before we say it's an emergency? The president is right. And some of the Republicans who are opposing the president, as you said in your opening, in your Ingram Angle, some of those are the same ones who last year during the Congress didn't want to get it done when we had the majority in both the House and the Senate. So this is something that's looks like the Senate's going to vote to overrule the president's order. But when the president vetoes it and it comes back for a veto, we'll be able to sustain his veto.
Mitch McConnell could have pushed this. He could have demanded his members.
We should have done it last Congress.
But they promised the president, you're going to get your wall funding. Just get us through this period. Isn't that always a little carrot you dangle in front of someone?
Right. We'll get it later. There's always a million reasons why you shouldn't do what you said you would do. Most importantly, what the voters elected you to do. But this president is keeping his word and doing what he said, and that's why the American people like him. And that's why this town doesn't like him.
Your advice to him in this moment, we're going to get into the impeachment squad. People think, oh, we got him. The walls are closing around him. We got these subpoenas issued. Ivanka, Jared, from weird Russians I've never heard of. Like all these, they're all named in the 81 people. What should the president do this is swirling around?
Just keep doing his job. I was back home Friday night. We had a Lincoln Day dinner I spoke at, and the crowd was huge, and they were so enthusiastic for the president fighting for what he told the American people to do. You know what's interesting, too, about these 81 letters that Mr. Nadler sent? What's interesting is who he didn't send them to. He didn't send all these people, 81 different entities, over 60 different people, but he didn't send it to the two most important, Glenn Simpson and Christopher Steele. Glenn Simpson, who was paid by the Clintons to put the dossier together, and who did he do? He hired Christopher Steele, a foreigner, to write the dossier that was the basis of all.
That's the list of all the people, by the way.
All those people, but not the two that count the most. And so, look, they started their impeachment effort last Wednesday. They started their impeachment last Wednesday with Michael Cohen. And Michael Cohen, their first announced witness of the 116th Congress, a guy who's going to prison in 2 months for lying to Congress, came in last Wednesday and did what?
That's their ace in the hole.
Came in last Wednesday and did what? Lied 6 times under oath. And that's why we sent a criminal referral letter to the Attorney General.
Well, I mean, Bill Barr has got to act on this. I'm sorry, Bill Barr could act on this. Could Bill Barr reopen the investigation into Mrs. Clinton?
He could.
Should he?
What he should do is tell us what John Huber's doing, what Michael Horowitz is doing, what the FISA abuse that they're supposed to be looking into, and this whole idea that you had the top people at the FBI, Comey, McCabe, Baker, Strzok, Page, all these people who launched and ran the Clinton investigation and then launched and ran the Trump-Russia investigations. They've all been fired or left the FBI. 2 are under investigation. That's where we need to look.
But there's plenty of collusion here.
Yeah,
Right, but what about Tony Podesta? Why does he seem to be able to get away with so much activity with Russia?
Crazy. We've talked about this before, and you've been great on this double standard. One set of rules for us regular folk, a different set of...
But now we have a new Attorney General in place who could take a sober, dispassionate look. Yeah. No one's looking to put scalps on the wall. But if this is what we're going to be dealing with, like on the other side, at least people should have a clear sense of what happened before this, correct?
Right. Go back and look at this fundamental fact. The Clinton campaign paid the law firm Perkins Coie, who hired Glenn Simpson, who then went and hired a foreigner, Christopher Steele, who talked to a couple Russians, never went to Russia, put together this fake document called the dossier that the FBI used. Comey, McCabe, and all these people used, Strzok and Page used, to go to a secret court to get a warrant to spy on the Trump campaign. And that's what launched it all. And now we got 81 letters going to people, but none of them are going to the guys that count the most, Christopher Steele and Glenn Simpson.
I think everyone who signed those FISA warrants, those applications to the court, not revealing that it was Hillary Clinton who paid for them. That still sticks in my craw.
Here's the other thing we have. We got competing testimony. We got McCabe saying one thing, Comey saying something else, Strzok saying one thing. This is why we need to look at this issue. And
nobody pays, though. This is what drives people crazy.
It does.
We have a new Attorney General who is a consummate professional.
We're going to talk to him about these things.
And you are in the process of talking to him about all of this?
We are.
And I know they'll say, oh, that's looking backward. We want to look forward. No, this is the rule of law.
The rule of law. Equal treatment under the law, most importantly.
Congressman, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.